Money FM 89.3, best of breakfast. Mind your business, only on Money FM 89.3.
Thanks for joining us on Money FM 89.3. It's Mind Your Business with me, Audrey Siek. Now, GE2025 continues to be our top story. The crucial campaign period has begun in earnest, with nomination day handing out its fair share of surprises. We are also seeing the first rallies in 10 years, with 2020 being a digital election because of COVID. But as candidates and parties take their messages to the ground and online, there's a new and growing concern that could quietly influence the way people think and vote. Generative AI and deepfake technology. AI-powered misinformation is now more convincing than ever. And for the first time, Singapore is tackling this head-on with new legislation banning false or digitally manipulated content that misrepresents election candidates. But just how much of a game changer is this law, and what more can be done to stay ahead of digital threats in this new era of politics? Joining us to unpack all of this is Jennifer Cheng, Director of Cybersecurity Strategy for Asia Pacific and Japan at Proofpoint. Jennifer, great to have you with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So I think many of us have seen some of these deep fakes already leading up to GE, but also prior to this event. How has the rise of GenAI, especially deep fakes, kind of reshaped global disinformation and cybersecurity? Are we seeing just more of the same or a whole new level of threats?
I would say generative AI and deepfake technology have fundamentally altered the disinformation and cyber threat landscape. We are definitely seeing a shift in both sophistication and scale. And from Proofpoint's perspective, we see a lot of business communication. And so, for example, phishing emails are now extremely well polished, free of grammar errors, linguistic, or even you can even add linguistic quirks or, some regional jargon to. And people used to rely on this as red flags to be able to identify if something is malicious or if there's a phishing attack. So Proofpoint research has found that in 2024, email fraud attack volume grew in countries such as Japan, South Korea, United Arab Emirates. And previously, many people in these countries relied on that sort of language barrier, so to speak, to protect them in some ways. And now attackers, because of generative AI, are able to create very personalized emails, very convincing ones in native languages that exploit the fact that people will respond when there is some level of trust, social engineering involved, because people want to be able to communicate and connect and take action. And along these lines, we've also seen a great surge of phishing attacks. So in the latter half of 2024, phishing attacks, which are voice-based attacks, surged by 442%. And so a lot of this is enabled by deepfake or generative AI technology. So with that, looking at how content is generated online today, deepfakes really have become an accessible weapon for all of us, but also cyber criminals as well.
Yeah, so as we head into this crucial period of the general election, how exposed are we to the risks of AI-powered disinformation? Because Singapore is one of the most digitally connected societies in the world.
This is a global problem. Over 60 countries have reported political deepfakes ahead of elections since 2020. I know Singapore has recently introduced a law banning deepfakes or digitally altered online material of candidates before elections. So it is definitely a serious threat and a serious problem. And it can be seen both as a positive and negative, perhaps, in that Singapore is one of the most digitally savvy countries in the world. And so, but because of that, I think there might be overconfidence in some individuals when it comes to how they can navigate the digital landscape. And so, in fact, Proofpoint research has shown that 7 in 10 Singaporeans knowingly engage in risky online actions. Now, in their defense, a lot of our research is based on people doing their jobs, and a lot of people have responded in that they're doing it out of convenience to get things done. But because of that, I think that that kind of points to the fact that they might be overconfident in thinking that they can avoid the threat in how they're navigating the landscape. On the other hand, the other consideration is also that Singapore, over 16% of the nation's population is age 65 and up. So for many years, Singapore has built up the nation's digital readiness to reduce the digital divide gap, but only 44% of seniors consider themselves moderately confident in identifying scams on messaging platforms. And so with the entry of generative AI, deepfakes, there's more and more information out there that people will need to navigate and be able to determine whether or not it's real or not. And we've seen this globally, worldwide. I would say even if we look at the U.S. elections and the amplification effect of the U.S. elections, social media was such a huge part of how people made decisions in that election. But we've seen a lot of content, memes, videos that have masqueraded as parody, but the reality is that sometimes people cannot tell whether it's real, supposed to be funny, without necessary context. And so if people are only making decisions about public opinion, about their elections, who they're going to vote for based on short memes or short form content and sound bites here and there on social media, I think that could lead to a misleading effect because of so much content that's out there being generated by GenAI.
Yeah, so Jennifer, to your point, are there certain types of political messages or topics that are more vulnerable, to exploitation by AI-driven disinformation campaigns? What makes them more susceptible?
Political narratives inherently are emotionally charged, and cyber attackers or people who want to socially engineer others are always exploiting the human emotions. And that really is what makes us human, but also potentially makes us vulnerable. And so, for example, there have been a number of untrue political statements made by political figures using deepfakes that we've also seen, even just the visual image of politicians being used in financial scam campaigns as well, with the likes of, Australia. We've also seen people using CEO voices or prominent leaders that are in the public using their voices and their images to trick people or to even communicate with people to try to get them to take action, right? And so ultimately, cyber criminals are well trained in social engineering. They keep up with the latest news and they try to exploit that. The Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore has issued a number of advisories, including one that's cautioning on cyber threats ahead of the nation's polling day, including looking out for deepfakes, phishing, third-party download links. So this really emphasizes the importance of staying vigilant on digital platforms, especially as people are looking at information leading up to campaign activities today.
So let's talk about Proofpoint's role in all of this. How does your tech work to detect and stop these AI-powered influence campaigns, especially during such high-stakes events like elections?
Cyber criminals are frequently looking to exploit major events in communications, all forms of communications. A lot of business communications happen on different collaboration platforms as well as email. And so Proofpoint is focused on protecting humans and protecting against cyber threats involving the human element. About 90% of breaches involve the human element, where threat actors are exploiting where we work, where we live. And so Proofpoint's unique focus in addressing human-centric risks starts with our analysis of 3.4 trillion emails and scanning 21 trillion URLs every year. And this is actually unparalleled global threat intelligence that help organizations stay ahead of cyber threats. We also use AI-powered defenses to combat cybercrime. So Nexus AI is our ensemble of AI models where we are leveraging a lot of that intelligence that we see to train these models to be able to recognize threats across email, cloud, endpoints, looking at behavior and intent. So behavior and intent are newer forms of detection capabilities that are considered to be non-deterministic, right? When we look at traditional cybersecurity, it's very much focused on, have we seen this threat before? What is the reputation associated with it? Have we seen a specific pattern and what's considered to be an anomaly? But to understand human behavior, human intent, many of these activities can be very misleading, confusing, gray. And so this is where Proofpoint's providing a lot of the context and behavioral analytics to be able to understand, who are the most attacked people in your organization, who's getting the most severe threats, who's most vulnerable, what kind of behaviors are those users engaging in that might put your organization at risk, and also looking at privilege, which users in your organization have access to the most valuable data, sensitive data to be able to, that make them very valuable for attackers to exploit.
Okay, so from what you're observing, what else can governments or even individuals like us, do to protect ourselves from falling for digital manipulation? You mentioned that we are so confident in ourselves and the data shows otherwise, that we are actually not able to tell the difference sometimes between genuine and real. So what are the tips here?
I think for voters, maintaining a healthy skepticism in your online interactions is necessary, probably on a regular basis, so not letting your guard down, but also verifying the source of your message. Consult with trusted friends or family members before really formulating decision or taking action. Being critical of the information that you consume online, where you're consuming it. I would say especially in social media, taking a moment even to recognize, does this make sense? Is this accurate, right? Being able to cross-reference, I think all of these things are a great starting point. I think when we're pointing to generative AI and deepfakes, we really need to be concerned about things like impersonation, pretending to be somebody else, whether it's through the artifacts of communication, and also even recognizing that it's possible for somebody's social media account to be compromised in some way, right? So having a combination of honing in on your skills and being able to recognize some of these things and questioning where your information is coming from is a great start.
Yeah, all right. Well, Jennifer, I want to leave this on a more positive note. Do you see generative AI as mostly a threat in the cybersecurity space, or is there also potential for it to play a defensive, even protective role?
I know I talked a lot about the risks and threats associated with generative AI and disinformation, but I very much see it as a positive thing. It's a double-edged sword, no doubt, but AI has really amplified, not only even in cybersecurity, the ability to be able to scale your solutions and process data very, very quickly, especially as threats have grown and grown. And then also looking at, generative AI and AI capabilities to be able to solve difficult problems in this world. I think that all of these things, even when I'm speaking in terms of behavioral intent, understanding human behavior, understanding intent in the cyber threat landscape, for Proofpoint, we're very excited about even utilizing AI, but recognizing that we have to do it responsibly, and the human interaction and helping to enable and amplify the work and the good work of humans is extremely important, and that's really what AI, GenAI, a lot of these technologies are able to do.
Yeah, well, a double-edged sword indeed. And as we enter this new era where politics and AI kind of intersect, your insights have given us a lot to think about, especially when it comes to staying vigilant and building smarter defenses against digital threats. Jennifer Cheng from Proofpoint, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Stay with us on The Breakfast Show on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.